All right, we're going to end up making 3 or 4 versions of this BMI program for Android. First one's going to be bare bones, really simplistic. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, please, is start up Android Studio. Create a new project. Okay, this will be an empty activity. I'll wait because I know that it takes you guys a little years to catch up. So start up yet? You're where I am? Good. Let me know when you're here, Keegan. Okay, so it'll be an empty activity, which should be chosen by default, but in case it's not, please choose that. Next, we're just going to call this, just to make it real simple, BMI calculator. Run the 2 words together, it's fine. In fact, if you want to, you can actually look on the screen. If you put a blank space in here, notice one is not put in your package name. Can you see that? So we can say this. Why don't you say BMI calculator, and then afterwards put your 3 initials. Okay, so it'll be unique to you. All right, I'm going to save mine right onto my desktop. Where you save yours is totally up to you. The videos that we watched yesterday, the gentleman who did them used Kotlin, okay? And I was able to talk about some of the differences between Java and Kotlin, but don't worry about it. We'll just leave it right. We'll keep ours set to Java and click Finish. Now, and I realize yours might still be starting up, but I just want you to realize what we get out of the box with this is 2 different things. We get an activity underscore main.xml file, which is mine still loading too, and we get our main activity.java file. The main activity file is where, as you can guess, with a .java extension, that's where we'll put all of our Java code. On the other hand, the activity main, you can see it in 2 different views, so to speak, if you look up on the screen here. Right now, we're in what's called design view. If I click here, now we're in code view. All right, this is pure XML. I'm going to go back and forth between these, not to confuse you, but as I think I mentioned yesterday, many developers do that. They do some stuff using design mode, and they do some stuff, you know, typically you grab your components and you pull them out there, and you do that in design mode because that's much easier. All right, but when you start to be real persnickety, so to speak, and you want to set stuff up, I'm going to show you how you can do things either way, but it'll be a pain in the butt doing it one way. All right, so when you start, as you probably guess, we got this hello world here. Now I want to mention a few things before we get started, okay? All right, first thing is, you'll notice this is a constraint layout. How do I know that? It's the default layout, plus if you look up on the screen here, and I realize this is small, I don't think I can make this any bigger, but you should see it on yours. Over here under what's called the component tree, it says constraint layout right there. So you know the type of layout that we're using. Plus, if you go into code mode, it'll say constraint layout right there. I don't know why they put all this on one line, but typically I do that right away. You don't have to do that, but all I did was that line that's got Android X, it's pretty long. So I just separated it into 2 lines. We're going to look at everything that's in here in just a couple minutes. All right. We're going to write a bunch of code in here. You'll notice that by default, this is what you get imported into your Java file. And that's for backwards compatibility. All right. And what it says is, if you remember, I said we just chose the defaults, which said go back to Android 16. Now it's about 30. But that will support 99.8% of devices. So we should be more than fine. All right. So when you look on here, let's just go through this line by line. Again, this is XML. XML many years ago was designed, it was going to replace HTML. Why? Because people said HTML was dead. All right. It's funny because when I started work at Blackhawk Technical College in, I don't even remember what year it was, like 1993 or something like that. All right. When I started there, in fact, it wasn't then, but the point is, when I started there, they said, well, you're going to teach a couple of application classes. So I taught like a class in Excel and a few other things, and I taught a class in DOS, the disk operating system. DOS is basically what you see when you type in CMD, that's DOS, for lack of better words. And they said, but don't worry, you're going to teach this class, and it has a DOS component, but don't worry because DOS is going to be dead in a year. Well, guess what? 23 years later, it was still running and still there, and it's still there now. So the only reason I'm telling you that is stuff doesn't change. But XML was designed where you could create your own tags. All right. And then over time, people said it wasn't as great as they thought it was. Okay. Which is one of the reasons that they went back and made HTML5, to be honest with you. So there's only been one version. So notice this literally is the version line, XML version. And you'll notice that they have these kind of weird little things here, this question mark, and that is just for the version line there. And the encoding says that we're using an 8-bit encoding or we're using Unicode, for lack of better words. This is our beginning thing that says we're using a constraint layout. This is our ending thing that says we're using a constraint layout. You can leave the blank space between them. You can get rid of the blank space between them. It really and truly does not matter. All right. If we were to change this, because there's other kinds of layouts that you can use. So if I came in here, I'm not going to do it, but if I highlighted all this and typed in relative layout, it probably would change here automatically. All right. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but yet they have to map up, in other words. Okay. All right. Then these next three lines are what are called XML namespaces. And it's letting us know where certain things, as far as the Android schemas, live. All right. I believe all three of these actually exist, but when you create an XML namespace, technically it doesn't even have to exist. All right. But I think you could go out there. There's probably nothing there, but you could. And this is telling us basically different things for the APK, all right, which is the APK, for lack of better words, is kind of the API, all right? And then, so that's fine. Now, the next two lines says, this is my screen size, and what do I want it to take up? Now, not always, but quite often when you do this with a width and a height, you'll have one of two things. One will be match parent, all right? And if it has match parent, that means whatever this is enclosed in, and this is enclosed in the whole thing itself, it says take up as much room as you can, all right? The other one that you'll see, instead of match parent, occasionally you'll see wrap content. If you see wrap content, that means only take up the room you need to hold something. So if I have a button and I set the width on the button to match parent, it'll be as wide as the screen is. If I set it to wrap content, it'll only be the size of the text in the button. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. And this basically says everything is located here in main activity. All right. You probably already guessed this, but again, if you take a look right here, so if I come over here to where it says text and I change it to my name is, you don't have to do this, is Jeff. But if I do that and I come back into design, it's kind of hard to see, but I can blow this up and you can see it's changed. All right. It's no big thing. I don't think that should surprise you one way or the other either. All right. Now, usually, not always, but usually when you start, you get rid of this thing. We're not going to, because it's going to allow me to show you some things that are in here about constraint layout. The first thing is I'm going to grab this thing and I'm literally going to move it, okay? And I'm going to get rid of each one of these constraints. The way you get rid of them is I click on it. Should be able to, oh, I thought I could click on it. Usually it turned red. Okay, maybe it's not going to let me then. But I can come down here and I can move it anywhere I want. Does that make sense? It's got, but notice it's within these confines. Now, when I do this, if I decide, hey, I want this thing to be perfectly centered, you already saw how we did that, right? You know, we moved it up here and boom, you can do that kind of thing. But sometimes you don't know as far as when it's centered. What do I mean? In fact, let's just get rid of it. I'm going to get rid of it. So I'm going to delete this. You can leave yours there. You can delete it. It really and truly will not matter. So it's gone now. But I'm going to grab, I'll just grab a button. So I've got something here. Okay, so there's my button. How do I know whether or not it's centered? Well, you can probably look at it and say, hey, Jeff, it ain't centered. Okay, and I know you know that. But the point is, what if I want to make sure it's pretty much even on both sides here? Are you with me? I want to make sure that it's even. Then you literally take your mouse and you put it on this one here and watch what happens when I do this. See how it moved it all the way over? Now I grab the one on the other side. Now it's centered. Width-wise, it's centered. Okay? I can do the same kind of thing here. Now it's right in the middle of the screen. All right? Now, sometimes when you do this, I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but what if I want another button? And I want another button next to it. So I want another button, but I want it to go here. Well, that doesn't look very good. So I can literally move this over. I can do that, as you can see. All right? But the problem is, when I run this, this button's going to be right here. But you notice over here, this button it's red right there. There's no constraints on this button. So guess what? When I run this, I could run it for you, but I'm not going to. If I run it, it goes right up there into the upper left-hand corner. But I want it to stay where it is. So I'm going to move this one over a little bit more. All right, so it's there. Then I want this one to stay where it is. I want it to stay there. So the first thing I do is I go and I constrain this, and it moves it all the way over there. But then I want to constrain so it goes to the other one. See that? Now, and you're going to forget this stuff. Stuff is just not going to work. This is a quirky kind of editor. But now it pretty much would be where I would want it to be. All right? Then I come through here and, so I've got some buttons. In fact, let's just look. So I'm going to sit there and run this and see if indeed I was correct in what I told you. This is the one that we're building. Angie saw it yesterday, so. All right, so it didn't because I didn't constrain the top. It's in the right area, but I didn't constrain the top. All right, so let's do that. So basically what I want is I want this to be, I want to go up here, which, you don't move that one, you move this one, sorry. There, and then I want to bring it down. There. Now, I'm going to try running it again. I mean, the first time I started using this, I was going to say it should move. There. Okay? And when the first time I started using this, I thought, this is a crock-a, you know what? I mean, I didn't like it at all, and I'm still not nuts about it. There are other layouts I would recommend that you go out to, don't know what happened there, but you go out to developer.android.com and look at the other layouts. So when you look at what you're going to do for your big project, I would recommend you don't use a constraint layout, that you try using something else. Now, if you say, no, I looked at it and I like the constraint, then use that. I would never take off for you using it. All right. Now, I'm going to stop the run here, but what I want to show you is I'm going to go back here into my XML. So I'm going back to code mode. So you'll notice I now have two buttons. See that? One of the first things you got to get used to when you start creating widgets, they're called widgets in this language, not controls, but typically at the top here, what you should be doing is you should be creating an ID. Now I can create the ID right here. I can just change this from button and button 2 to whatever I want. Or if you look up on the screen, I can go into design mode and I can click on this, and always in the upper corner like this, that's the ID. All right. Now the guy who was doing the stuff yesterday in the video that we watched, he prefaced everything like a button would be BTN, a text view would be TV, an edit text would be EDT, etc. You can do it any way you want. You can start it with the word button, if it's a button. You can start it with BTN. You can do whatever you want to do. That's totally up to you. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say BTN. I'm going to call this one calculate. You've seen this quite a few times when we've done a calculate button. I hit enter and notice what it does. It says, hey, I've already got this. Do you want me to go and rename things? It's called refactoring. All right. And I'm going to tell it to search everywhere, even in comments, strings, everywhere, and click refactor. Now it's been changed. Now if I go back to code, notice it's been changed. But just to show you, I can also come back here and change it in here. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to type in BTN clear. All right. Now, when I did that, it didn't come back and show me the same stuff it did before. Okay. I thought it would, but it didn't. All right. So you can do it, like I said, you can do it either way. All right. So let's assume that I've got this. Okay, everything so far at least is cool. But if you'll notice, it says button and button. Well, that's not very good, right? I could come in here and go back into design mode. Sorry, into code mode. And for the text, I could come in here and I could type in, this is the second one, so this is clear. And I could come into the first one and I could type in for text, calculate. All right. Get out of there. Get back into design mode. And again, it's kind of hard to see, but they have been changed. See that? All right. One thing you'll notice is since they're both set up right now, since both buttons are set up as wrap content, this one is smaller than this one. And you might say, yeah, and I'm really anal. That just bothers me. You don't, when you click on one of these, you don't have to make it so that it's wrap content or that it's match parent. You can give it an actual size if you want to do that. All right, so if I click over here, somewhere in here, I don't know, I don't remember where, but it's going to say match parent or it's going to say wrap content in there someplace. But I can manually set the size of it in here too, in using one of these attributes. And I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm just telling you that it can be done. All right. Now, the point is, and I may have mentioned this to you last week, I don't remember, but this isn't the way you're supposed to ever put text in anything. Instead, what you're supposed to do is I'm going to get rid of the word calculate right here. So there's nothing in here. Okay, there's nothing in there at all. And you come over here and you click where there's this little box or whatever you'd call it right there. Okay, and you can click there. This is one way of doing it, but I don't like doing it this way. They show you this in our book, but I wouldn't do it this way. This is the way I do it. You come over here and you go to res. And under res, you go to values. And under values, you double click where it says strings, just like that. And I'm going to create two strings. I'm just going to copy this one because I'm a little lazy. Now it's going to give me errors because they all say app name for the name. This one is the actual name. So I'm just going to call it calculate. And this one I'm going to say clear. And you'll notice, you should notice at least, the errors went away. The problem is right now this one will say BMI calculator and so will this one. That's what I don't want that. So now I want to put in here calculate. And I want to put in here clear. All right. Now that's all fine and dandy, but guess what? I didn't manually change what was in here. I didn't change these. Notice that's still blank. All right. And I'm going to actually go in and make this one blank as well. So right now, someplace in here, when I click here, it's going to say clear. It's in here. There it is. And I don't want that. But now if I go and click over here and I click where it was empty, where it said text, all right, I can click on there and, well, I don't even want that. But if I look over here, notice I've got something now that says calculate. Can you see that? If I click here and click OK, there it said it. And if I go back here and I go back to where it said text, all right, which is in here someplace. I don't know. The stuff moves around occasionally. I'm not sure why, but there should be one in here that just says text. Notice what it's changed to. @string calculate. All right. And if I go to this one now and do the same thing, so I'm going to click on this one, and again, where it said text, I'll come down here and click on it. Click in there, and this time I'll choose clear and OK, and now it says clear. Long story short, I'm going to expect you're going to use the string file, and that'll be when, we're going to add some more stuff to this in just a minute. I'm not even starting the project yet. I'm just putting some stuff in here. But I will expect, for instance, if you come in here and you create a text view, if you look on the screen, the text view is like a label we've had in other languages. So I come in here and I create a text view. All right. And again, I can come in here, since it's constrained, I can do the same thing that I just showed you. I can drag it, etc. I can do all that stuff if I want to do it. All right. But what I'm telling you is when you come in here, I will want you to come in and let's just say we're going to call this BMI program, because we'll start creating the program in just a couple of minutes. I just wanted to run through a couple things first. But if I come back into the strings file and I come in here now and let's add one more of these. And this one is just going to say title, for example. You can call this stuff here whatever you want. All right. And I'm just going to call this just BMI calculator. All right. Boom. Now, what you'll notice is when I go back again, okay, it doesn't change. Why? Because I had just exactly the same stuff I told you before. All right. So I can come in here, whoops, and come down to text, find the thing that says, now it says text view. I want to get rid of that. I want to click over here, and I want to choose BMI calculator. All right, there it is. It was the title. That's why you give it these names, because it shows you the name. And I click here, I click OK, and boom. All right, now that's all fine. I think you get that. I think you can do that with no problem. But let's look at this. All right, because the way they put the options in here is different than the way that we saw it when we were using C#, and it's different than the way you do it in HTML. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to go down into my text stuff that's down here. All right. And notice the text here, the text size. It says 14 SP. SP stands for scalable pixels. SP is what you use for text. Everything else, when you put in an amount, it's DP for density pixels. But there are some built-in ones. That's the ones most people use. Notice if I make it real big, that's pretty obvious what just happened, right? So I'll just do that. For now, I'll keep it real big like that. All right, then I can come in here and start taking a look at some of the other stuff that's in here. So my text, that's already been set, but I can come in and if I want to change the color, okay, I can do that in here. If I want it to be all caps, notice, see how it changed? All right, so I just literally just clicked on it, boom, now it's all caps. It's kind of like using the text transform uppercase that we had in CSS. It's kind of the same type of thing. So I can go in here and I can make all sorts of changes. I can go through here and look now. You can change font type. You can change a whole bunch of stuff. All right, I'm just going to leave it like that. All right, so we do this, and this is where it gets a little hinky. This is why I wanted to show this to you first. So I'm going to come out here, and if I click on text view, I'm going to put a text view here. All right, and I want it right next to that text view. I want to come in and I want to find an edit text. So you look through here, well, where the heck is edit text? Well, I go to text right there. These are all edit texts that are in here. The difference between each one of them is what it allows you to put in. All right. Well, what we want is a number, and we'll say number well, we could say number signed, because I mean, you got to put in a height that's either, that's positive, right? So I'm going to put that here. Now notice when I put that here what it does. These two are not lined up. See that? And this all looks a little bit funky. But I can come over here. I can click here. I can move that over. Boom, that's set up. I can move this down to here. Now that's set up. Now they're linked. You understand what I'm saying? They're now linked. I probably have to change the size of this so it looked a little bit nicer. But the point is they are linked now. All right. Now this is not linked to this. All right. And what I'd really like to do is I'd like to link so this, the end of this goes to the end of here. You understand what I'm saying? Now, one way I can do it is I can click on here, and this is kind of a weird way, but this thing will, see that? Boom. It doesn't always catch. There. Now it did. And you say, well, they're not equal. It centered it in the other box. You understand what I'm saying? Now, why did I show you that? Because that's probably not going to be the way you're going to do it. You'll probably, if you go into code, you'll notice that in this edit text, what do we have now? It says constrained end to end of. So it's setting it up like that. So all I'm trying to tell you here is when you do this stuff, it's up to you. You can, I would recommend when you first start to go in and create everything by dragging it all out on the screen. All right. I mean, I think at least, I've not even tried this, but I know no reason why I couldn't come in here and say button. Okay. Now, it's not going to show me a whole heck of a lot, as you can see, but that's okay. I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to grab all that stuff that was in the button before. Okay, I'm just going to grab everything. Now, I'm going to get an error. I'm going to get some errors because I've already got the names, etc. All that stuff is in there. But I'm just going to call this button hello. All right. And I'll wrap content, fine. I'll leave it at clear. Now we'll put another thing in there and I'll just call this hello. Now, right now it's going to give me an error because it doesn't find anything named hello. All right. And I'm not going to put these constraints that are in here, the parent, etc. I'm going to get rid of all these constraints. And I'm just going to end it right here. All right. Now the only error that it's really giving me is I don't have any string in here that is called hello. I don't have one. So I should be able to go into strings, copy this line right here. Doesn't matter which line I copy. But I'm going to call this hello. And I'm going to type in hello right here. All right. Now I'm going to go back into here. That error is gone. I'm not sure why that error is here. But let's see if it's actually showing. So I'm going to go back to design mode. There's my button. So what I'm telling you is you can draw them that way. Make sense? I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you can do that if you want to. All right. Whatever is the easiest for you. All right, that was a little longer than I thought, but what I want to show you quickly is what's on here. This area that's right here, this is, I call it your project window. It's what you want to have showing. You're always going to probably choose either Android or you're going to choose project. I'd recommend, not packages, I'd recommend just leaving it a project. But you do what you want to do with it. It's yours. All right, you can hide it. You can make it I can make it razor thin if I want to, which gives me more room on the screen, so you can move it around, etc. This is your palette. This is where all your tools are. Every time you take a tool and you put it out there, it's going to show in the component tree. All right. Let's say that I wanted to take this hello button and I wanted to copy it. I should be able to do Control-C, and I think you can actually do that and paste it in this way. I would never do that. But I watched a video once where a guy was doing it like that. All right, I don't know why you do that, but you could. Now, if you look in here, you'll notice I've got errors in all this stuff. It's confused, probably from what I just did. But again, I don't care. I'm going to remove every bit of this in just a couple minutes. This is where you put everything. This is kind of a shadow of where you put it. All right, this is more supposed to show what it's going to look like right now if you run it. Now, one thing about this, look up on the screen here. You see this thing? It kind of looks like a keg right there. This is how I can go and convert my picture, and I can go and convert it to landscape. So right now, it doesn't look very good landscape. All right, we're going to try to set ours up so it looks decent in landscape, the BMI that we create. It won't look great because the pictures that I put in there are pretty big. All right, but it won't look terrible either. And you just get back by clicking on it again and choosing portrait. All right, so again, this is your tools palette. This is your component tree. If you decide, so I don't want that hello button anymore, I can highlight it. I can hit the delete button and it's gone. There's, I can also just click in here hit the delete button, and it's gone. So I'm going to just remove basically almost everything, so you can see that. All right. Now, again, one thing to realize, okay, if I make something in here and I make it a number field, let's do that. I'll go back and add this again, this number thing. All right. I don't care what it is. I don't care what this is. I'm not going to give it a name. I'm not going to do a darn thing. But I want to run the program to show you something. So this was number signed. All right. Well, when I run this, you can't even see anything really here. But when I click, notice what comes up. It's a numeric keyboard. So the only thing we're going to have to worry about in the BMI program is no input in there whatsoever. Because we'll set it up so it'll only take numbers. All right, and that's good. Now what's going to happen is this, you typically put stuff down here, okay, but it gets hidden. But if you click this button here, it goes away. All right, if I click up here again, it comes back. All right, now you've got your choice when you're doing this. Notice if I try typing it, I'm hitting the S key. See how it's not taking it? It can only use these. So I can either click here, or I can actually use my keyboard and put in numbers. You can do it either way. Now you can constrain it. We're not going to talk about that today because it's actually in one of the later chapters. That if you only wanted to take it from the device itself, you can do that. All right? It's totally up to you. Now, again, neither of these buttons work right now. Okay? All right. So what else do we have here? Again, this is the window. You've got different stuff set up here. The easiest way to find it out is to put your mouse over it. It says select design surface. It's the default right now. This is the portrait landscape. I already showed it to you. This shows right now what's available to you. If you look at that, and you can change it, but really you should just keep it at the default one when you're working in here. All right. This, as it says, this is the version of the API we're using. This right here, you'll notice it's got themes and it's got other stuff in here. If I click over here, you may or may not have noticed how that changed. All right. This is the default theme right now. There's the languages. Right now, the only thing it's showing me is English because that's the only thing I've got set up. But if I wanted to do this for other languages, we could set that up too. All right. Okay. So you come in here again. This is where the stuff draws. This over here is your attributes area. All right. So if I click on the button, for example, these are all of the attributes for that button. And right now, it is button calculate. This one is button clear. It doesn't have too many things set up for it. Okay. And let's suppose in here that, you know what, I decided that, right, notice in here there are these numbers. Can you see this? These numbers work with these lines that are here. What do I mean? I'm going to come over here and I'm going to choose 32. Watch the button move. Did you see that? It just moved up 32 pixels. If I want, I can reset it back to 0 and it moves down again. You can put any number in there you want. So if I wanted to move down, I think it should move down with a negative. I'm going to do a negative 55 here, and I'm going to hit enter. Oh, it didn't take it. I thought that it would. I think it might have moved it over to the right. All right, but let's do this. I'll put 55 here, just positive, and I'll hit enter. And you can see how it moved up. All right, I wouldn't do it that way. I would just start to get used to playing with the stuff in here. All right. And as far as that stuff goes, just so you know, it's kind of a pain. This is what I don't like about the constraint layout, because you can constrain things to the end of something, to the start of something, to the top of something, to the bottom of something, to the left of something, or to the right of something. So when you're setting it up, you can do any or all of those. If you put no constraints in whatsoever, you're going to get an error message. All right. And you're going to get an error message in your palette. And that error message that you get in the palette is going to kind of show what I just mentioned to you. That is, it'll be over here. And it'll say, hey, you haven't set any constraints. So right now, it's going to move it in the upper left-hand corner when you run this, when you run your program. Okay. All right. All of your main attribute area is down here. So as it says, common attributes. All right. And there's all sorts of different ways that you can set this stuff. That was a very quick intro. Maybe not a great one, but it's the one you got. All right. So I'm going to remove everything. And I'm assuming now that this is where you both are, correct? So let's start to build this. First thing we will do is right near the top of our screen, let's have a title up here that says BMI calculator. So go drag a text view, drag it and put it somewhere near the middle, but right about in there. It doesn't matter where because we're going to move it anyway. All right. I want this to be centered. So again, take your mouse. Notice when you highlight any of these, see that? I want you to grab the one on the right and drag it all the way over, which is going to move it as far right as it can go. But then I want you to grab the one on the left and move that over as far as it can go. Now it is centered. It is centered horizontally. You with me? All right. Now, if I go here, I do want you to do this. I want you to click this one and also move it right up to the top. And you're going to be like, that would be really stupid. We're going to change it in just a second. All right. But what I want to do then is if you look over here, you might have to scroll up or down. I want you to be able to see this. And I want you to click here and just change it to 8. And now it's moved it down. In fact, 16 would be even fine. See how it's moved it down a little bit now? All right. So what you're starting to learn is how you set stuff up on the screen. That's all. All right. We want this to say BMI calculator. So let's immediately go into our strings.xml file. How do you get there? You go over to here, look on the screen, you go over to here, and you might have to click this. I don't want to be there. Where am I? External library? No. All right, under project, you want to open up app. All right, and why is it showing me this? I'm not sure. I want this res file that's right here. All right, this is actually better than I thought it would be, so that's good. So over here where it says BMI calculator and whatever you called it, okay, I want you to click there, okay, and hopefully that'll open up something that looks like this, correct? Then I want you to open up the one that says app. Then I want you to open up the one that says source. All right, just stop right there. Are you both caught up? All right. All right. So what's under here? If we keep burrowing our way down, you don't have to do this, but if you look on the screen, if I go to main and to Java, all right, this right here, if I keep going down, this is going to bring up that main activity file, all right? I don't want that now. If I look right under res, right here under main, that's going to bring up my manifest file. I don't want that either. So I'm going to close this, all right? Trying to figure out something here. Let's see. Android. Okay, let's change from project. Let's change to Android. Okay, down on the bottom. You with me? Keegan, did you see this? Up here where it says project, click the down arrow and choose Android. That's going to collapse our, it's not going to show us much stuff, but it's going to make it easier to go through this stuff. All right, let's take a look at what's in here. First of all, these two things right here. Notice that this says edu.rankin.jpscott.bmi, etc. You see all that stuff, right? Yours is probably similar, but it's got your initials. All right, and it might be a little different, but that doesn't matter. This is the main activity, so if I double click it, that's this. All right, not a big thing. Now, these two that are down here, don't play with those. Those are system files. Just keep them closed and don't do anything with what's in there. That's the best thing I can tell you. All right, if I go to Java right here, Okay, it's got some build config. That's another system file. You don't want to play with that one. All right, the res, this is important. All right, res is short for resources. Not that it means anything, but it is. So who cares? Well, notice here we've got a thing that says drawable. All right, and in that drawable, we've got two different things. We've got launcher background and launcher foreground. All right. And what we are going to do later when we actually have our version running, we'll go out, and I didn't do this, but we're going to try to find like maybe 4 different images that are the same size, or we'll resize them manually so it looks the same. You put typically under the drawable is where we will put those image files. All right. Now, important thing, I mentioned this yesterday to Angie, but I want you to hear it, Keegan. When you are naming something like this in here, you cannot use uppercase letters. Don't do that because it really confuses the system. Even when you change it back from upper to lowercase and you do a refactor, it still doesn't like it. So, but you'll do it anyway because I still do it. All right. All right. What else is under here? Well, so that was drawable. Again, that's where we'll put our images. And we've got layout. And that's where that activity main is. You already have seen activity main. So I'm not going to click on that. We could bring activity main up if we wanted to. Then we've got Mipmap. All right. And you'll notice it's also got another launcher in there. All right. This used to be set up. Yeah, it is still set up like this. Notice it's got HDPI, MDPI, XHDPI, etc. You see all this stuff. All right. When you go and you want to put your application out in the Google Play Store, typically what you do is you will either make or crop or run a tool on it, but you will have the image that you want for your application in each one of these. Why? So if somebody brings it up on a tablet, it'll show in this size. If they bring it up on a phone, it'll show on this size, etc. All right. So that's what Mipmap is basically used for. All right. The other thing that's in here, I've already mentioned some of it. First of all, you got colors. These are the colors that it's using here by default. How do I know that? Well, one way that I know that is if I go over to activity main and I go over and, well, I guess they have to run the program. I'll do that. It's not going to look very nice, but you'll get the idea. If you look on the screen here, you see that purple? All right. I don't know why it's doing that, but that purple, they grab that purple that's right there is grabbed from colors. It's one of these purples that's right here. I guess it's probably this one. So you can go in, when you can set your own colors, you can add colors to this, you can do whatever you want to do with this. So if I wanted to add yellow, okay, I could come in here and find the hex code for yellow, which is yellow, blue, and green combined. So I could come in here if I wanted to and just add my own. So I could say color, whoops, color, name, equal, yellow. I mean, I could call it Ralph, but that would probably be kind of confusing. So I'm going to say pound, what? Red, green, blue. All right. And when I get off of that, well, I guess that wasn't it. Don't green and blue make yellow? All right. Well, it's not perfect, but you see what happened here. I made my own. So maybe I would change that to turquoise. Something, I don't know, Q-U-O-I-S-E, something like that. But you get the idea, right? All right. Strings I've already gone over with you. We'll look at that again in just a second. Themes, notice in here they've got this, so this is the theme. It's telling us to go into our colors and to use that purple 500, all right? And then it's telling us to use that purple 700, etc. So you can set up your own themes. I believe there's also themes that are online that you can even grab those themes if you want to. All right. And always, if you're going to do something like that, before you do it, even go out to developer.android.com and see what's out there. All right. So, like I said, taking it from the top, you'll care about the main activity file. That's where your Java code goes. All right. You don't want to touch this other stuff here. Under res, the drawable is where you'll put your images. The layout is going to be held for two things. It's where your activity main file goes. Later on, when we get to using recycler views, and I think I showed you that. I showed you that thing with my phone where you've got like a contacts list. All right, we'll do something similar to that. You will create your own view in there, and it'll be our own XML file. So we'll use it for that. But until then, basically just for activity main. Mipmap, as I said, typically it's for your different images that you're going to use when you put the thing up to the Play Store. And colors I went over, strings I went over, and themes I went over. This res generated, I don't even think there's anything in there. It's generated by the system. All right. You'll also notice there's the thing here that says Gradle Scripts. All right. The only one of these you should ever want to change is this build Gradle, the second one that says module. The first one is created by the system. This one. So don't play with that one. This second one, it may come in here that you want to go and change what version you're compiling for, what your minimum version is, etc. So you can change that in here, and you can add different implementations in here. We'll do that later on in the semester. Again, you don't have to worry about that at all for right now. All right, like I said, I'm trying to go through this stuff to be at least somewhat complete with you. And do I expect rather that you'll remember it? No. But at least you've seen it, so when we go back over it again, oh yeah, I remember when he talked about that type of an idea. So let's do this. Let's, all of you, or both of you, open up your resources, which probably right now looks like this. Your strings.xml file. So go under values and double click on your strings.xml file. And it should look similar to this, except yours doesn't have JPS, it's got your initials, right? All right, so we'll add a title in here. So you just come in and you say string, name equal, we could call it whatever we want, but since it's our main title, in fact, I'm going to call it main title, okay? And if you look in here, they recommend you could do this either way. You can either type it like this, which is totally fine, but you'll notice almost always they use underscores. All right, so I'm going to try to be more like they are, so to speak, the people who do this. So I'm going to call it main title like this. And I'm going to put in here just BMI calculator. All right. Now, if I wanted to call it BMI calculator JPS, I could use my app name, but that would be, you could do that if you wanted to. All right. So we've now got that. Everybody, you're both with me? Okay. So this is still running, so I'm stopping the run. I'm going to go back into my activity main file that's right here. And again, I want you to find the ID field. It should be, if you go up to the top here, it should be way in the upper right-hand corner. All right. Now you get to start coming up with your own style. And what I mean is, in the past, I've always used the word text view, like text view main title. I'm going to use TV now because it's less typing, but you don't have to do that. So I'm going to type TV, little TV, and then main title. And I'm doing it like that here. All right, because that's how I basically set up programmatic controls using what's called camel casing. All right, so I've got that. I hit enter, and it's, again, it comes in here and it says, well, you want to reset everything? Yes. So I'm also going to click and have it search. So if I've got any comments or in my strings file, etc., do that. And then you'll notice there's a scope. Well, really, it'll be project files, to be honest with you. It'll be the one we'll want virtually 100% of the time. Click refactor, and it's changed it. All right. Now, it hasn't changed the text in there yet because we didn't tell it to. So we've got to go and find out, all right, in here, notice I've got declared attributes and layout. Can you see this? You can close these. You can do whatever you want to do with these. I'm going to open the one that says declared attributes right here. All right. Why? Because I want to find this thing here that says the word text view. And I don't want that. I'm getting rid of that. And again, this little square or whatever you want to call it, it says pick a resource when you highlight it. I'm going to click on that thing that says pick a resource, and I'm going to find my one that says title right there, main title. I'm going to click on there, and I'm going to click OK, and it's changed this now to BMI calculator. Both with me? All right. All right. I'm going to close those declared attributes now because that's all I cared about for that. Now, I'm not going to play with the layout here, right now at least. So I'm going to close that too. I'm not going to do anything with transforms. If transforms you could use, I think we look at that near the end of the semester, but that's if you wanted to do some animation. I mean, come on, we're just starting this stuff. We weren't going to do any animation. So I'm going to close that as well. And now I've got my common attributes. And you'll notice in my text, yours should say the same, @string/main title. All right, so it's showing me that. Now, sometimes, just so you know, I want you to see this and I want you to hear this. Sometimes you don't want to put anything in something. You with me? You don't want to put anything in something, but you want to see what it would look like if you did put something in. Does that sort of make sense? Like if you've got one of those edit texts that's got nothing in it because that's where you're going to put the height and the weight, but you want to put something in it to see what it looks like, you can click and put it in the one down below that's got the wrench there. That's tools text, which means it'll show you when you're in design mode what it would look like, but when you run, it won't show. Does what I said make sense? All right. So I'm going to look here, and it's got text appearance. Well, let's see. Wow, well, look, there's a bunch of stuff here. So this thing that said text appearance, I clicked on the arrow that's right here. And I can change the font. For instance, I'm going to click the down arrow, and notice it's a bunch of sans serifs, and there's a few other things. All right. And I'm not going to play with it at all, but I could if I wanted to. Okay, I'm just going to leave it where it was. All right. So I'm just going to leave it at sans serif. That's okay. But what I want to do is I want to change the text size first. Okay. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to make it 24. And you can immediately see the change in here. All right. Then I'm going to go up one. I want to just see what's in typeface. Well, again, normal is what it is normally. That's what I want. So I'm going to leave it there. But there's other stuff that you can conceivably set if you want to. All right. Then we've got line spacing. Why do you care about that? Sometimes if you've got very few things on your screen, but they're together, they look scrunched. So you can work with line spacing. It's kind of like the line height that we used in HTML. All right. But I'm not going to touch those. I just wanted to show you some of the stuff that's in here. So I'm going to start going down. Now, if I want to change the color, okay, I can come in here and I could literally choose one of the colors that's in my list, or I could add a color or do whatever. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this. All right. And notice what it has. I just want to make sure because typically when it puts in the text, just so you know, it's gray. It's not black. So please look on the screen here. That text is not black. I'm going to click here. All right. And then I'm going to click the OK button and watch. You see it changed? All right. It's not a big thing, but I'm just telling you because when you do, I want you to both blow me away with what you do for your final projects. And I want you to be thinking about all this stuff because this may get you a job, and I'm not exaggerating. There is a market out there for Android developers. So the more professional you make this, the better the chance if you go for an Android job that you're going to have possibly getting it. All right. So I did that. Notice I've got this text style. Well, I like it bolded too. So I'm just going to click the bold button. Now, again, that should be pretty obvious to you what just happened. It's now bolded. And I can go down here, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff that I can set, just so you know. There's a bunch of other stuff. Now, not right now, but if you look a little bit later, when we set up our screen or everything we want for our Android program, we'll have a label or a text view that says height. Then we'll have an edit text for the height. If we wanted to put a hint in there, we would use the hint that's right here. Okay. All right. And there's a bunch of other stuff. We could keep going through it, but I don't want to waste too much of our time on this. So I'm going to click off, and now you see what we have. All right. I'm going to do one more thing now, and that is I'm just going to click on a blank area right here on the form or whatever you call it itself. All right. So I just clicked in a blank area, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to find background. See this? I'm going to find background right here. And again, I'm going to click here, and I want to choose color. Now notice we've got drawable. If we wanted to put a background image in there, are you with me? If you wanted to put a background image in, you use background images in HTML. We could do that here. I'm going to click on color, and just so we see this, I'm going to choose the purple 200, and I'm going to click OK. Again, is that pretty obvious what we just did? All right. So let's build our interface, then we'll take a break. So the interface is going to be fairly simple. This has been constrained, and you'll notice there's nothing here. Notice there's no errors, there's no warnings, there's nothing. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come over to text view, and we're going to drag one out, right, and put it about right there, and then drag out another one and put it underneath it. Okay? Then we're going to come over where it says, we may have to move this around a little, we'll see. Let's see, text, there we go. Click on where it says text right here. All right, and again, those are our text views, but we don't want that. Let's see. I want the edit text. So that's a text view. We should be able to come out, and right here where we got number, just drag one of those out right there. Just use the number decimal is fine. Then put another one underneath it. All right. It doesn't have to be perfect. We'll constrain it in just a bit. Okay. Then underneath that, we're going to put another one of these. In fact, we'll put an edit text up. So I'm going to go to common, click on it again. And yeah, we'll just do a regular text view, the one that's on top. Put that down here. Now, that one is going to change because that's where we're going to put all of our statistics. So we'll have the height, we'll have the weight, we'll have the BMI, and the BMI status. Are you with me? All I did was I went to text view and I dragged another one of these down. That's all. All right. And for now, at least, because I want it to be centered, so I'm going to constrain it here, and I'm going to constrain it here, just so that's centered. The other stuff isn't even constrained yet. And I'm still getting warnings for that because it's now constrained on the left and right, but it's not constrained on the top and bottom. Are you with me? All right. So before we take a break, let's do one more thing, and that is let's go over and find where it says buttons. Come down, put in a button here, and put in another button next to it. This is going to be our interface. Now, I'm not going to run this, but if I did, it wouldn't look like it does on screen because we haven't constrained the other stuff yet. You're with me, right? All right. So it is about 10 after 1. Let's take until 1:20. All right, so we'll take a break till 1:20, and then we'll pick it up right here. Are you both caught up? You're both right here? Yours both look similar to this at least. If you don't like the purple I used, you can now, you know how to do this. Go into your colors file. So let's say that Angie loves yellow. All right, so go into there and add a yellow, and then change it to yellow. I don't care. You're not turning this in anyway. I'm just trying to give you, a feel of the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing. That's all. Also not a bad time to do a file save all. So just did that.